Stanford University.
Okay, well, welcome to CS193P. This is lecture six, yes, of fall 2013-14. So today we are going to have a little demo at the beginning. I want to talk to you a little bit about polymorphism with controllers. In other words, using inheritance in the world of controllers. And those of you for whom object-oriented programming is not that facile quite yet, you might be kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess I could subclass my controller. And in fact, you do want to subclass your controller, and it's quite common to subclass controllers. As I said, iOS is kind of all designed around object-oriented programming, so you get to apply object-oriented principles everywhere in the system. So I'm going to show you that today, and that's to help you a little bit get you started on your homework, because what I'm going to ask for your homework is for you to add a second card matching game to your Machismo. Now, this second game is almost identical, plays by the same rules and everything. It really just uses a different deck of cards. Okay, that's the primary difference. So you'll obviously have to update your model to have this extra different deck of cards. But your game playing logic and the basic part of your controller is the same. But we don't want to have playing card wired into our controller. So we're going to use inheritance to create a playing card specific one and then keep a generic one that we can share for the other game. So we'll show that at the beginning. Then we're going to dive into how to get multiple MVCs in your application. In other words, how to make your application have more features than you can just fit on one little screen. Okay, and the critical, obviously, to building any kind of complicated, sophisticated app is to be able to expand your feature set. Even though you're talking about being on a device, a small device, a very small screen, that limits how much UI you can put on there at a time. And then I'm going to do a demo towards the end where I'm just going to basically show you. I tell you I always talk about what we're going to do, then I demonstrate what we're going to do, and then you do it for your homework. And that's exactly going to be true today. So I'll do a demo with Attributor that we worked on Monday. We'll enhance it to have multiple MVCs. Okay, so let's do that demo first. So we're going to take the Machismo as of at the end of lecture 3. So this is prior to all your homework. And if you remember then, the storyboard looks like this. We just have 12 cards and a score. Really, really simple. And we have this card game view controller, right? This is the card game view controller, also quite simple. You remember that from last week. The problem with it, and I mentioned this at the time, is that it imports playing card deck. In other words, this card game playing controller is pretty generic card game player, and if you put other kinds of cards in there, it could probably match them, except for this one line of code down here that causes us to drag in playing card deck and make this card game view controller be playing card specific. So what we're going to do is very simple. We're going to create a subclass of this card game view controller that's specific to playing cards. And then we'll move all the playing card specific stuff into that subclass, and we'll keep this one nice and generic. This card game view controller class is going to be a generic card game matching view controller. Does that make sense what I'm going to do here? Okay, so the way we're going to do that is we're going to get rid of this offending line of code. Okay, this is the line of code that makes this class depend on playing character. And I'm just going to delete it and return nil here from create deck. Okay, well, that's done it. Okay, we have a generic card because now I can get rid of that and it's all generic. But obviously this is going to be a problem because now there's no deck, right? This is going to return nil. This is going to return nil right here. This is actually going to return nil as well because it's not going to be able to draw any cards. So this is a problem. So by doing this, by putting this nil right here, we've essentially made this class, card game view controller, abstract. Okay, so hopefully all of you know enough object-oriented programming to know the term abstract. Abstract means that this class cannot be instantiated and used. It's only useful as a superclass for other classes that are concrete, what we call concrete. Okay, so we need to make a concrete subclass of this if we want to do anything with it. And I personally, in Objective-C, there's no abstract keyword that you can use to specify that this is an abstract class. You just have to document it in your header file that this class is abstract. You can't instantiate it. And I also like to document, even on my implementation, any methods that basically are abstract, any method that is required that you override this method, and also any abstract methods, you've got to make them public, okay? Because otherwise the concrete subclasses won't be able to know that they're supposed to implement them, okay? They could still override them if someone sneakily told them about it, but we don't want any sneaking around here. We want createDeck to be public. So I'm going to copy createDeck and put it in our public interface. I'm going to leave that thing there that says it's abstract, okay? I'm also going to put a class comment here that says abstract class must implement methods as described below, or something like that, so that when people come to this class, they know, oh, this class is abstract, and I go down here. And then a lot of times I'll put right here maybe the word protected, or for subclasses, something like that, to kind of make it clear the difference between methods that are just for subclassers, that they're going to override or something like that, versus public methods, which would probably go up here, which someone using this card game controller would call. Okay, so of course we have an error here because deck, so we have to import deck, but that's a lot better than importing playing card deck, because we are not now tied to any kind of deck. Any deck of cards will do. Okay, does that make sense? So now that we have this abstract class that has this method that has to be implemented, let's make that concrete subclass of this that implements createDeck. Okay, and we just do that in the same way we create any new class, right? File menu, new file, and then we're going to say we want an Objective-C class. We can specify the superclass here is going to be Card Game View Controller, and I'm going to call this class Playing Card Game View Controller. Okay, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to be a card game view controller, but it's going to add the concrete thing that it is going to play with playing cards. So I'll hit next. I'm going to put it in the same place as my other view controller. Here it is. You can see a couple of view controller lifecycle stubs in here. I don't need those. This is actually the designated initializer. I'm not sure why it throws that in there, because nowadays we pull these things out of storyboards. We would use awake from nib, or even better, view did load. Okay, so we don't want that either. So we have this nice concrete subclass, and all this thing needs to do is implement createDeck. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to return. Okay, here I do need to import playing card deck, but that's okay here because this class is for playing cards. That's what it's for. So I have no problem doing that. So let's go down here, playing card deck, alloc init. Okay. Bingo, I've created a concrete subclass. It's ready to go. If I were to go back to my storyboard here and run, let's go ahead and run this. I'll do this on the device, why not? See what happens. Can anyone predict what's going to happen if I run this? Is it going to work? No guesses? It's not going to work. I see heads shaking. No, it's not going to work. And in fact, it isn't going to work. And we'll see what it does. Okay, so I'm trying to flip cards, and all these cards, there's no cards here. Okay, and I just made that concrete subclass. What's going on? How come it's not working?
Your storyboard's still tied to the abstract class.
And that's right. So the answer is my storyboard right here. If I look at this controller is still the abstract one. So it's actually properly not working. Okay, because it is abstract. It has no cards that are associated with it because it has no deck, so it doesn't work. So the question is, how do we tell our storyboard that we want this controller to use the concrete subclass instead of using that abstract superclass? And the answer, very simple. We just select it. We can select a controller either by selecting here. Kind of be a little careful when you click here. This actually selected the top level view. You can see we need the blue border around the edge. There's actually a little trick that you can do when you're selecting things. Let's see if I can remember which one it is. Yeah. Command click. Oh, dang it, what is that? There it is. Shift click? No. Okay, Control Shift click. When you Control Shift click on something, it will actually show you all the things that are under your mouse. So actually, if I Control Shift click here, is that what it is? Yeah. Then it's showing me the button, which is right in my mouth, then the mouse, and then the view, and then the controller behind it. And so now I can pick which one of these I actually meant to select like that. Okay? So I think it's Control Shift. something. I can never remember. It's muscle memory. And my keyboard's slightly different than this one. So anyway, so now I've got it selected. It's got this blue thing around it. So now I'm going to inspect it. Okay, I'm going to bring up the inspector, but I don't want the attributes inspector. Okay, I'm going to inspect the identity of this thing. So I go to the identity inspector. That's this one right here. Okay, and if you look at the identity inspector, if you have a controller selected, the very top thing is what class is this controller? And you can see that right now it's Card Game View Controller, the abstract superclass. So if I click here, I can either just type Playing Card View Controller, or it could be in the list right here. So if I scroll around, you can see some other classes that are in iOS. And here's our Playing Card one right there. If I select that one, and now when we run, it'll be using that concrete subclass, which will be dealing out playing cards in our game. And so we're back to having this work. Okay? Everyone understand what we did there? Now you'll have to do this, setting the class of controllers, and this is especially common to have to do when you have multiple view controllers, because you'll drag out a new view controller, you'll need to say what class it is. Okay? Otherwise you won't be able to hook up your outlets and actions to your subclass of UI view controller. All right? So that'll get you started on that, and again, you're going to have another game. Both of them are going to, your app is going to be able to play either game. All right. That's it. That's all I wanted to show there. So let's go back and start talking about multiple MVCs now. Why do we want multiple MVCs? Obviously, so we can add more. Oh, sorry, question.
Oh, just really quickly. So
yeah.
if you say bind a method to something in the storyboard, and you bind it in the abstract class, and then you override it, does it automatically inherit the same listener status?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The question is, what if I have an outlet or an action that I've connected up to some outlet or action that's in an abstract superclass? And then I set the class to be a concrete subclass. Will all my outlets and actions still work? Yes, in fact, they will still work. They'll work great. And in fact, if you have the code for the abstract superclass, like we do here, you can actually have your storyboard up, and in the assistant editor, open up the abstract superclass, and you can wire up outlets and actions. Okay, even private ones. So something doesn't have to be private in the abstract superclass, the outlets and actions, to wire it up. Okay? Now, if you have the right side of your assistant editor set on automatic, you'll have to switch it to manual to go and pick the abstract superclass, because automatic's going to want to show you the concrete one. But like in our example here, we can't wire those cards up to Playing Card View Controller because it doesn't have that outlet for card buttons. That's in its abstract superclass, right? So we just open up the abstract superclass and we can wire it up. In other words, Xcode is smart about knowing the inheritance hierarchy to let you wire up to abstract superclasses or even concrete superclasses, and even if they're private. So outlet and action connecting is kind of considered a private thing. Right? It's kind of a private thing. You don't have to make all those public to be able to connect those. But calling methods is something that's public. Okay? If you want to call a method in a superclass, that needs to be made public because there's no protected. Okay? Good question. All right, so multiple MVCs. Why we want multiple MVCs? Obviously, we can put more stuff in our app. How do we do it? It's very simple, actually. You just go to the object palette, the same place you drag a button or a slider out of, and you drag out a view controller. And when you drag it out, it'll be a generic view controller. In other words, its class will be UI view controller, and it'll be blank, obviously. Then you go create your subclass of UI view controller. Okay? In this case, in the demo I just did, I created a subclass of a class I already had, but you can create a direct subclass of UI view controller. And then you go and inspect it with the attributes inspector, and you set its class. That's it. That's how you drag a new MVC in and create one for your app. So it's easy to add MVCs. Now, once you have an MVC added, you can put things in its view, buttons and labels and stuff, and you can hook up outlets and actions and all that stuff to create a second MVC, or a third or fourth or fifth. Or a large app might have 100 MVCs in it, okay, or more. So you got all these MVCs. How do you present them to the user? Okay, well, there's a number of ways to do it. But the fundamental answer is you use